Why suppressing your appetite leads to more fat down the line. Look, I'm really concerned with where the health and fitness industry is heading because there's such an obsession on trying to skip meals, doing longer fasts, trying to suppress appetite in every single way using drugs, supplements, and everything in between to try eat less. And if you do this long enough, what you end up doing is just backing yourself into a corner where you're not eating enough and you can't burn enough to actually drop the body fat, let alone sustain day-to-day function. If you're new to this channel, my name's Olly. I'm the founder of The Body Reset, and we've used this system with thousands of busy professionals and business owners in their mid-40s and 50s to get their body and energy back on their side. Look, if you're wanting to shift some weight, but you want to feel great in the process, you don't just want to go through diet after diet, constantly trying to shift the weight that's bounced back. You've got to look at how we increase your metabolic rate rather than just how we suppress what you eat. The best analogy of this is if I gave you 10 liters of fuel and I put this into a scooter and I put it into a big V8 Mustang, how long do you think it's going to take for the Mustang to burn the fuel versus the little scooter? And the awareness here is if I use that V8 analogy, we think about getting your body back to a point of really burning more, having a bigger fire that's actually able to burn the fuel you have, i.e. the calories, the food, rather than being in such a suppressed survival state where the body is so slowed down in such a low metabolic rate that we look at a cookie and put weight on, right? And if you fast forward back to where you're in your mid-teens, you probably were in a spot where you could have a high carb meal or you could have a pie and you wouldn't put on 3 kilos overnight. And I think being able to bring this awareness to both our relationship to food and body, but also this awareness of if we can think about fueling our body in a way to really get back to that V8, we're going to have so much more fun in the process of staying lean, staying healthy, and more importantly, being able to maintain this long term. So what I want to walk you through is the 3 key steps that we can do instead, rather than constantly just restricting and suppressing that metabolic system, doing diet after diet, trying to lose weight. There are 3 key things I would suggest doing instead so that appetite isn't even your problem. We can start focusing on more strategic fat loss phases where you feel in control. Now, the first one that I'm going to suggest is focusing on more protein rather than just less sugar. Now, none of us are going to argue that less sugar in our diet is a bad idea, but being in a spot where we're just focusing on less sugar, and trying to restrict can be really unhelpful. If we focus on increasing the quality nutrients in our diet, we will better regulate a lot of these sugar cravings and other hunger cues that are coming through because we're actually eating high quality foods, and high protein is both very metabolically demanding, i.e. you'll burn more while eating quality foods, but 2, it's also quite filling. So you'll feel like you're not as hungry and it becomes a much better way of having that regulation of appetite rather than just simply eating less or taking some sort of drug to decrease that appetite. So increasing protein will better regulate your sugar cravings in many ways. The second one is going to be looking at adding in a little bit more weight training, a little less cardio. Now, if you're not doing any exercise, then obviously any movement is going to be a nice step towards getting you back to a bigger engine. But if you're already doing a lot of cardio, certainly if you're going 3+ sessions a week of like an hour-long circuit class or run, bike, something like that, being able to get to a place, if you're in your mid-40s, 50s, and you're looking to drop body fat, spending a bit more time on weight training has a ton of benefits, like actually building back a level of muscle mass so that you can utilize the foods you're eating. But the large reason I'm highlighting it in more of an appetite regulation video is that there's a huge focus on how much post more of these cardio type sessions. Certainly if they're more zone 3, zone 4 activity, they tend to need a lot more glycogen as fuel. You'll feel a lot more hungry. You'll have more cravings if that's the biggest portion of your exercise. So by bringing your focus over to weight training, both increasing that muscle mass base, being able to improve, hormonal profiles and recovery and so many other factors for weight training, but fundamentally you'll improve your appetite regulation, your cravings coming through, and you won't feel like you're so tired and worn out after exercise. You typically will feel more energetic. And being able to make that shift towards more central nervous system stimulating muscle tissue or tension exercises typically is a really nice way to stabilize and find that new foundation. The last one I want to bring in is more an awareness and a real emphasis really on regulating your nervous system. And this can be as much, breathing and stress, but I really want to emphasize the awareness of how we eat as much as what we eat. There's so many of us that focus on exactly what calories and the obsession of exactly how to make even the perfect meal, but if we're not thinking about how we eat that meal, we're fundamentally missing a big part of the picture, which is if we're taking that time to chew and be present when we eat, we're going to be extracting so much more energy and more importantly nutrients out of those meals so that our body actually gets what it needs out of that food. The second part to this is it'll also slow down how quickly quickly we eat so that we can be a lot more mindful. We improve digestion, but we also improve that regulation of appetite, or that how strong that leptin response is, one of our key hunger hormones, to be like, okay, now I am full. If I hoof down my whole meal in 5 minutes, it's so much more likely for me to eat more food than if I was to be a lot more conscious and take my time to chew. Same thing as if you're eating all of your meals in front of your desktop or in front of a TV, you're going to find that you eat more food on average because you're not conscious of what you're eating. So bringing a huge awareness to those 3 things. 1, an increase in protein is going to better regulate your blood sugars. 2, shifting more towards the weight training to the cardio to really manage that hunger overall. And then lastly, that focus on not just what you eat, but how you eat can make a significant difference to the overall appetite regulation and improve it in your metabolic rate. And more importantly, if you're looking to shift body fat, being able to feel like you're in control so that when you go through that fat loss phase, you're in a space where you're focusing on the ways to increase that metabolic rate rather than just suppress your appetite. And I promise you, in the long run, that makes all the difference in the world. I hope you enjoyed this initial structure. If you haven't yet been through our 5-day reset, it's a completely free 5-day series that allows you to identify more habits like this so you can install into your day really easily to get your body and energy back on your side. If you want access to that and you're listening to this on podcast or on this on YouTube, I've dropped a link in the chat for you to check it out to go through this series. If you want to go through anything more in the gut health, hormonal, or just overall body and performance space, there'll be a bunch more videos, or one probably recommended by YouTube here, to go deeper into this topic. See you on the next one.